Welcome to Greek for a Week. I'm glad that you are looking at our final two verses here in our first paragraph of chapter 5 in the book of 1 Peter. Again, we're looking at verses 4 and 5, with the first paragraph being chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. In the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at the responsibility of the elders as Peter has been admonishing them on how to lead, how to shepherd the particular flock of which God has given them responsibility. So verse 5, Peter says, "And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. Correspondingly, younger ones, be subject to the elders, and all of you clothe yourselves with humility, with respect to one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble." So here in these two verses, again, Peter is continuing this idea of how should the elders lead? How should they behave? So he begins here. You have a participle and then you have a word in the genitive case. And I know that two are kepoimenos. I know that that's genitive because of my article. So the participle here out front is an aorist passive participle, masculine genitive, singular of phanerao. And you have a participle that is in the genitive case as well as a noun that is also in the genitive case, which that basically tells us we are dealing with a genitive absolute with a temporal component, which is why I translated it, and when the chief shepherd appears. Then you have the kamesthe. Here is my verbal form, second person plural, future middle indicative of kamizo. And then your last word here that I want to describe is the tes doxes in verse 4. Rather than using this genitive to define crown as a glorious crown, that would be an attributive genitive. I'm going to tend to follow Dubis here on this from the Baylor Handbook and go with him as an exegetical genitive. That is, it further defines or clarifies what kind of crown it is. It is a crown of glory. So we get to verse 5 here, and you have the hamoios. So here is my adverb because of the os ending. An adverb, again, typically this adverb can mean likewise or in the same way, but I think correspondingly is a good way to handle this particular word in this case, because he's saying just as the elders behaved, if you will, in verses 1 through 4, the younger ones are to be subject to the elders in a corresponding way. Then you have your verbal form here, the hupatagete. There's your second person plural aorist middle imperative of hupatazo. And then the alelois, I'm jumping to this word because this is where he's saying that you are clothing yourselves with humility, and you're doing it with respect or with reference to one another. So there's my dative of reference, or my dative of respect. So here I translated the de here as and, where he says, correspondingly, younger ones be subject to the elders. And now, all of you here. And so he's used the concept here, this imperative here, that you clothe yourselves. There's your second person plural aorist middle imperative of eg com buamai. All right, that's your lexical form of this verbal form here, the imperative. Of course, the hati here is a conjunction, one of cause. In other words, why should they clothe themselves with humility? Because moving forward, God is the one who shows favor to the humble and he opposes the proud. Trust this has been helpful. This is verses 4 and 5. I'll continue to flesh these verses out a bit more next week, because we will diagram all of 5, verses 1 through 5 next week. Have a great week. Thanks for listening, and see you later.